If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There are some men who don't walk away from a challenge. Nick Martin is one of them. He's spent his life on the streets, and now he may lose it there. Joey Travolta is Nick Martin. He's tough, tender, terrific. Joey Travolta stars in Sunnyside.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna catch me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
This is the American International Podcast, where we, not so coincidentally, discuss movies released by American International Pictures. I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And on this episode, we're looking at Sunnyside from 1979.
Sunnyside was directed by Timothy Galfas, written by Timothy Galfas and Jeff King, from a story by Jeff King and Robert L. Schaffel, and produced by Robert Schaffel for American International Pictures.
Sunnyside stars Joey Travolta as Nick Martin, John Lansing as Denny Martin, Stacey Pickren as Donna Rosario, Andrew Rubin as Eddie Reaper, Michael Tucci as Harry Cimoli, Talia Balsam as Anne Rosario, Joan Darling as Mrs. Martin.
It also stars Chris Mulkey as Reggie Flynn, Richard Beauchamp as Hector, Heshimu Cumbuka as Ice, Jonathan Gries as Wildchild, E. Lamont Johnson as Rage, and Billy Jacoby as Billy.
Sunnyside opens with shots of a Queens neighborhood and a text telling us that Samuel Z. Arkoff and Louis S. Arkoff presents this film.
We get a good look at the New York City skyline, too, and the Sunnyside theme performed by the New York City Band plays.
We see neighborhood kids playing basketball and just typical New York scenery. And then we catch up with some of the main characters. This is the Nightcrawlers gang, and they're meeting up. We don't really know who they are yet. Most of them are dressed in denim, except for one who shops at the Herb Tarlick collection. He dresses like a used car salesman.
His suits are quite loud. Nick, the leader of the gang, stops by the bakery where his girlfriend Donna works to confirm their date at Christo's that evening.
So that evening at Christo's, Donna is waiting at the bar and Nick walks right past her, goes up to the bar and orders 86 tuna sandwiches and a 6-pack to go. Wrapped, he confirms, when the bartender asks him.
For some reason, Donna finds this amusing, and the two of them start to dance. However, Nick's gang friends come in to kill the vibe for Nick and Donna. He tries to shoo them away, but it's too late. They've succeeded in ruining his date. Donna goes outside.
It's funny how they do this because Harry just goes up and says he's going to have a drink. And then Reggie comes up and says he's going to go have a drink with Harry. And they're just doing it to be obnoxious.
It looks like Donna's used to this. Nick follows Donna out. He doesn't stay with his friends. And they decide they're going to go for a walk, leaving his friends behind.
He says that they've nowhere else to go and they'll be fine.
That's their regular hangout, as we'll find out.
So then he suggests that they take in the carnival.
As they're walking there, Donna says that she just wants to get away, the two of them, not all his friends.
They walk around the carnival for a bit, and they get to a game stand, and Donna picks out a doll she'd like to win. It's the one where you have to throw balls that knock over the bottles. So they get 3 throws for $1, and Donna takes the first 2 balls and whiffs them both.
And Nick takes the last ball. He throws the ball and hits the pyramid of bottles square in the center. They don't budge.
The ball bounces off.
Yeah. Nick recognizes that this is a cheat.
Nick has insisted he gets a doll for his throw, but the carny is insistent that they've got to scatter.
However, his boss, or somebody not quite on camera, says just give him the doll. They've obviously been made as a fraud. However, this is going to stick in Nick's craw for a good portion of the movie.
Later, Nick asks Donna if she had fun at the carnival tonight, And he says he's never taken anybody there before.
They stroll by an empty lot and Nick stops and describes the dream house that he'd like to build with her there. They dream of a bright future together. And now we're at a factory where Nick's brother Denny is getting undressed after work. He's in the locker room with all the other guys when a supervisor comes in to look for volunteers for overtime. Nobody wants to do it, and Denny begs off because tonight is his turn to make dinner, and somehow this works. 3 other guys get assigned to it.
And he does, because the next scene we have is dinner at the Martin household, and Denny has made dinner.
It's spaghetti with clams.
Also there is he and Nick's mother, Donna, and their little brother, Billy.
Denny's excited because he has a job interview at an ad agency, and if he gets this job, it's going to change all their lives. Apparently he's some kind of artist. Graphic artist. Donna and Nick would both like to introduce Donna's sister Anne to Nick's brother Denny.
Little Billy says he isn't hungry. He said he had too many hot dogs today. So Nick takes Billy to his room and puts him to bed. Then Nick comes back and says goodbye. He's going out. His mom and Donna are disappointed that Nick isn't staying in tonight. Denny thinks this is to be expected, and after Nick leaves, tries to coax the others to eat.
And now we're in a very strange scene. A rival gang leader named Eddie Reaper is screwing some chick in a bedroom while a bunch of unrelated people hold a Bible study class out in the living room.
Well, it's led by Eddie Reaper's father. Eddie Reaper is with this girl, but then he suddenly gets dressed and leaves. But he makes sure that the people in the Bible study group are aware of his presence before he goes.
Yeah, he makes a crude gesture at them at the door and then leaves them scandalized in his wake.
So now we meet some of Reaper's gang. They're the Savage Warlocks. They're walking down the street, and we see Nick's gang is doing the same, but towards them from the opposite direction. And they're all going to meet at Nick's request.
Yes, this is some sort of gang summit. It's going to include a third gang that are called the Deathmakers. I guess the idea is that if they work together, they can achieve more and maybe put an end to some of the inter-gang violence that's been plaguing all of them.
Harry, the guy with the loud suits, warns Nick that he can't trust the other gangs, and he tells Nick he's a dreamer. But Nick says that these gangs are the toughest gangs in the neighborhood, and that's why they need to band together.
The 3 gangs converge in a deserted ballroom chosen by Nick to have their summit.
There's a stage with a curtain still hanging from it, and there's chairs in a circle. It's really kind of an odd location for this meeting to be taking place.
Yeah, but it's neutral territory, and they can all be comfortable there, as comfortable as they can be. So while this summit might be about working together and putting an end to inter-gang hostilities, Nick has got other injustices on his mind. Those carnival barkers are ripping people off. This will not stand. And Nick wants to do something about it.
He wants to take down the carnival. They're supposed to be giving to the community, he says, but instead they're ripping off the people in the neighborhood and taking them for chumps.
All the gang members are really keyed up at the moment, and Nick demands seriousness. The gangs can work together to stop all this. Reaper declares that this is a groundbreaking collaboration and that trust is a must. Rage, the leader of the Deathmakers, razzes Reaper for being too old, calls him a grandpa. Nick tries to take control. He doesn't want to hear all this bickering. They're there for a purpose, to take down those carnival cheats.
So Reaper asks what it is he's proposing they do, and Nick responds to Reaper by handing him a gun. How many more of these can you get, asks Reaper. Enough, says Nick. Reaper hands the gun over to one of his fellow gang members. He throws it to the ground and it shatters. It's just a toy.
Nick doesn't want any real violence tonight.
Nick throws down a hand-drawn map of the carnival layout and assigns sections to himself, to Reaper, and to Rage.
It's a crudely drawn map on butcher paper. It's just a bunch of rectangles and circles. So I don't know how they're supposed to know which way is up or anything. Nothing's labeled. This is a really funny scene, honestly.
Rage says they'll have to bust some heads so that people will know that they were there.
Reaper says everyone will know the gangs were there because the gangs will have all their money.
Nick confirms that this job will put money in their pockets, and afterwards, if they want to bust each other's heads, that's their business. But first, they take care of the carnival. He calls it a carnival.
And now outside this groundbreaking summit, there are 2 men fighting in the alley. The alley is just disgusting. The rival gang members come out to bust up the fight, and we see that one of the guys is Denny, and the Nightcrawlers stop him from getting his ass kicked. Nick walks Denny home.
A little later, Nick asks Denny what he was doing there tonight. Denny says he was worried about him. He had heard that Nick was meeting up with Eddie Reaper. Nick tells Denny he hears too much and he should have stayed home. But Nick says Denny, Eddie Reaper? He's a killer.
Nick wants Denny to work on his art and to get a girlfriend, and praises some of Denny's graffiti that Nick saw earlier. Denny tells Nick to stop the con, but Nick is serious. Nick doesn't have talent like Denny. Gang stuff is all he has. And then Nick cautions his brother to clean up before their mother sees them.
Now we're on a rooftop where Eddie Reaper and some of his savage warlocks are trying to get into the cigarette business. They're meeting with a supplier named Desi. I guess he's kind of a bootlegged supplier.
Yeah, he's a wholesaler, let's say.
Reaper offers to take 50 cartons off of him, but Desi tells him that the minimum is 3,000. But Reaper only wants 50. But they come in 3,000. What are you going to do?
Reaper tells Desi that he knows a really good body shop. When Desi asks for what, Reaper walks to the roof ledge, looks over, grabs a huge chunk of concrete from the top of the roof, and drops it onto the hood of Desi's car. That's what for. Now we're back at Christo's, the gang's bar of choice. And Harry and Alvin tell Nick that he just missed Denny. Nick is adamant that Denny isn't to be involved in any of their gang business. And the rest of the gang arrive, and now it's time to go to the carnival job. And now we're at the carnival, or almost. Some icky dude named BB from the Deathmakers watches as his boss, Rage, tries to get some against a fence. And then Reaper and Nick arrive to get the violence started. The gangs get into position.
Once in position, the robberies all go on simultaneously. The only problem is the Savage Warlocks had brought real guns instead of the toy guns Nick was supplying, so several people are killed.
Reaper and his number one man, Ice, take a moment from getting concessions to take out Rage and BB, because they're having their weird threesome again against a trailer. Once they've killed them, they leave with their Cracker Jacks.
Now we're back at the Nightcrawlers' hangout, and they're discussing the killings that went on tonight. This wasn't part of their plan, and Gearbox says that Rage getting snuffed wasn't an accident.
And then Nick arrives. He asks if they have all the money, and Harry has put it all in a paper sack. Nick tells them all to stay out of the clubhouse tonight. It's too hot there.
It's possible the Warlocks might be coming by since they know that they have this large sum of money.
Which is weird because they're going to go to the Warlocks to split the money.
Well, they might not want to split it.
Yeah, they might get ambushed.
So Nick leaves, taking a few of the Nightcrawlers with him, and they give Nick a gun to take with him.
A real gun.
So it's Nick, Alvin, Harry, Reggie, and Ice. Nick asks who among them is the most pissed off. Harry says it's him, so Nick hands over the gun to Reggie to hold.
Harry doesn't trust these violent warlocks, especially as they're going into the ballroom to give them the money that they stole. Nick promises that Reaper will split it up fairly.
They arrive, and Nick voices his displeasure in what went on tonight. He's not happy they used real guns. That wasn't part of the plan. No guns, no armed robbery. Reaper says that what happened to Rage was his personal business, and now they can split that take 50-50. Reggie gets a little overexcited and pulls out the gun, but Nick hasn't put it away. Then Nick tells Reaper to keep off his turf. Reaper says, "Okay, Nick, I got what I wanted and you got what you wanted, so now we split and we're even."
Nick gives Reaper all the cash. Reaper hands it to one of his lieutenants, and they count it. And apparently Nick's take is half of the $6,921 that they stole. Reaper makes to throw the bag to Nick, and then holds off, saying that they could have more profitable adventures in the future. And on a personal note, blowing up isn't good for your health. Then he tosses the bag to Nick.
Nick snaps a finger and walks out with the Nightcrawlers following him. The guys are down, but Nick knows how to cheer them up. A party.
A party. And the guys are really excited. But then Nick asks Harry for the use of his apartment, and Reggie grants it, as he says, "Hey, that's my place." But it says okay anyways, and that he'll make sure he doesn't come home too early.
Reggie asks him to say hi to Donna for him. So Nick and Donna take advantage of the apartment.
But first they have to change the sheets.
Then Donna goes to the kitchen to fetch a couple of glasses, but all she can find in the cupboard is cigarettes. From top to bottom, left to right, it's all cigarettes. "I know he doesn't drink, but he sure does smoke," she says. She asks what it's all about, and Nick says it's Harry's business. Donna counters that if he's a Nightcrawler, then it's Nick's business too. Then she implores him to leave the gang. He's got so much going for him. But Nick insists he's got to do what he's got to do. And what he's going to do right now is Donna.
Yeah, they have some badly staged sex. It's not well lit, it's not well acted, and it's no fun to watch. Oh, and there's a terrible song underneath.
The soundtrack plays "Loving You" by the New York City Band.
And now we're at breakfast the next day at the Martin place. The Martin boys, Denny and Nick, have a coded conversation in front of their little brother, who thinks their mom is hot for Christo, the restaurateur. Their mom comes out, and the boys give her a fistful of cash to treat herself. It's her birthday. At the Nightcrawler clubhouse, Nick closes a deal with Desi, the cigarette wholesaler. Reggie's going to pick up the merchandise.
Outside, a shopkeeper is cleaning up some damage. Nick tells Gearbox to hang out here and keep an eye out just in case there's any more trouble.
Nick also generously gives the man some cash because this man runs a grocery store and gives the neighborhood residents credit a lot of the times. So now that they're flush with cash, they're going to do him a solid.
Then Nick and Harry head out in Harry's car to talk to Reaper. Apparently, Reaper has brought several of the Deathmakers into his gang since they were without a leader, and they've been causing trouble in the neighborhood.
Harry reminds them that they do make money together, right?
They find Reaper hanging out with his gang on a corner, and Nick says that someone has been dumping in on their territory. He says they can handle the guy that's been spray painting the buildings, but he wants Reaper to let the guy who's been breaking windows to know that it could lead to broken arms. He says he's also heard that Reaper has been adding to his gang. "Yeah, well, some of the fellows wanted some extra security," says Reaper. "Give it to him," says Nick. "They may need it." Then Harry drives the car off, and Reaper goes back to his pals.
Now we're at the bakery where Donna, her sister Ann, and their dad are working. Some warlords burst in and bust up the place. They spread cake everywhere, break glass, terrify the girls. It's a nightmare. And apparently this is the day of the party. Harry meets his girl Diane on the street. They're about to go up to Nick's mother's apartment. She's brought a gift and a six-pack, but she's kind of homely, so Harry's only going to be seen with her in private. He tells her that he'll meet her later at her place, because she's not allowed to come over to his, and he takes the party gift and 5/6 of the six-pack that she's holding and goes up alone. However, he does give her a $10 bill for her trouble.
Nick and Reggie had been watching this exchange from the balcony above. Inside the apartment, it's being decorated for Nick's mom's party. Alvin is pasting magazine clippings to the wall. Nick tells him that this won't fly at his mom's party, and tells him to take them down.
He and the rest of the gang are setting up food and decor. It's all kind of haphazard. Nick notices that Denny's not there. He also sends Reggie out to take that shipment of cigarettes and count all the cartons to make sure they're all full.
Now we're back at the bakery, where Donna and her sister are recovering from the earlier invasion and cleaning up when Denny arrives to pick up the cake,
which fortunately was in the back, so it didn't get damaged.
Ann goes to the back to retrieve it as Reggie comes in and joins them. Ann brings out the cake, and Donna introduces Denny to Ann. They hadn't met before. And since they're all going to the party, Ann and Denny decide to go together. Reggie says he's going to stay and help Donna clean up first. I think Reggie has a thing for Donna.
Reggie has a big thing for Donna, but everyone treats it as just a harmless fixation, I guess. Now we see Denny and Ann arrive at the party. They tell Nick what happened at the bakery. Denny thinks that he knows who did it. I mean, it's kind of obvious. But now it's time to kill the lights. Nick's mom is nearly home. She comes in, the lights go up, and they yell surprise. And she's surprised. Then the party commences for real.
They do sing Happy Birthday in kind of a strange tempo.
Well, there's only one confirmed singer in the group.
Then we go back to the clubhouse where Reggie is accepting that cigarette shipment from Desi. Desi says he needs to talk to Nick later, and Reggie repeats over and over that he was told to check out the shipment, and Desi's like, whatever. Back at the party, Anna's dancing with Denny. I turn you on, don't I, she says. She suggests they go elsewhere, but Nick's in the bedroom. So Ann suggests they go to the John. And we see they're laying in the tub, Ann is on top of Denny, and they're kissing. But then she suddenly stands up, goes to the medicine cabinet, and sprays shaving cream on him.
Now we see Desi and his guys packing up the truck and leaving as Reaper and his gang get ready to attack. Once Desi and his guys are gone, they go into the Nightcrawler clubhouse and interrupt Reggie's counting. That's not a good thing.
Reggie warns them to get out of there before he starts kicking some ass, but this just makes the Warlocks laugh since they outnumber him 5-1. Reaper suggests that Reggie go on up to the party while they take half the cigarettes. Then Reggie starts a fight he can't win.
Nope, they beat him good. And we know this because the next scene takes place outside the hospital, where Denny and Nick are waiting in the rain. Denny still wants to get that job with the advertising agency and get Nick out of there. But Nick isn't going anywhere. Things are too heavy right now. Denny wants him to think of other people right now, his mother, Billy, and to keep himself safe for their sake. Nick rolls his eyes at the idea that someone might love him. Me too.
But Nick says he's got to do what he's got to do.
He tries to give Denny cab fare, but Denny can make his own way home.
So we're back at Christos. Nick, Gearbox, Alvin, and Ice are at the bar when Harry joins them. They're all upset about Reggie, and they're angry with Reaper for what he did to him.
He didn't make it. That's where we find out he died.
Nick asks Harry if he's still got his connection. Anything you want, ensures Harry, but he warns Nick that the cops are looking for him. Nick doesn't care. It's time for them to kick some ass. Reaper is getting too greedy, says Nick. He wants them, the neighborhood. It might be time to fight back. Let's bust some heads, exclaims Wildchild, who I should note is Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite.
And he really lives up to the Wildchild name here. He's so jittery and he's always dancing around like a 80s band hype man.
After declaring, let's bust some heads, he picks up a hard-boiled egg from a bowl on the counter. You're going to need something heavier than that, says Nick.
Then a hard-boiled egg?
Mm-hmm. Then Nick sends Gearbox and Alvin to deliver a message to Reaper.
Now on his own, Nick goes to the bakery to see Donna. She missed the party, he comments. He wants to talk to her privately, so they go into the office, even though the bakery is empty but for the two of them. Donna is afraid for Nick. She finds out which Nightcrawler was killed and is distressed to find out that it was Reggie. Donna just wants a normal life where they can go outside without getting shot at. She wants him to stay safe, and then asks him to make love to her right there in the office. And mercifully, we don't have to stay and watch that.
When Nick does exit the bakery, he's accosted by two plainclothes policemen. Hey, Nick, what are you doing? They say. What am I doing? I'm eating the brownie. What am I doing? They cuff him and take him down to the station for questioning.
Now we're with Gearbox and Alvin, who are going to see Reaper. They meet two guys from the gang, and Gearbox stammers out his message to Reaper. And then the two guys take turns mocking him. It's not pleasant to see, but then they take him up to Reaper on the rooftop.
One of the gang members goes up to Reaper and tells him that two Nightcrawlers want to talk to him and asks if he wants to talk to them. Well, they're here, ain't they? Says Reaper. Alvin says that they want to meet on their turf at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. He says they'll come clean, and they just want to talk. Nick wants to talk to me, confirms Reaper, and he agrees to the meeting.
At Christo's, the Denham Mafia is sitting at the bar when Harry comes in to deliver the news that Nick's been picked up by the cops, and he won't be out for 24 to 48 hours. This is a problem. Nick is the one that was going to wire the stuff to blow up the Warlock's clubhouse tomorrow, and he's otherwise occupied. Denny's there, and he can't believe that this is happening, but he agrees to take over for Nick and do the wiring.
That night, it's a really rainy night. Outside the Warlock's clubhouse, Denny gives Anne a kiss and leaves her as lookout as Denny and the Nightcrawlers head inside with the dynamite. They go in and decide that they're actually doing the Warlocks a favor because the place is a disaster.
They're a rat-infested mess.
They stumble around in the dark for a while, but do get that dynamite set.
The next day, Harry, Denny, and Anne are walking home.
Denny assures Harry that this is going to work.
Denny brings Anne back to his mother's apartment, where Billy's there getting ready to leave for school. He greets his big brother, telling him and Anne that he and Nick are both in trouble. Their mom is pissed because neither one came home last night.
Denny tells Billy he was helping Donna. Billy leaves for school, but isn't buying that story. Denny and Anne go into his room. Anne sarcastically asks him if he's going to be joining the gang now, maybe even be the new leader. But Denny assures her that's not his thing. Then Nick suddenly appears in the doorway, glowering at Denny. "We didn't spend the night here," says Denny. "I know that. I told you to stay out of my business." Then he explains that the gang needed help. They came to him and he helped them out. "That's not the point," says Nick. "And now you had to drag her into this." He slaps Denny and says, "Stay out of my business." Then he slams the door. "He didn't mean that," says Denny.
He didn't mean that. In an alley, the Warlocks await their rivals for the planned rendezvous, but they don't show. Reaper and Ice are impatient and figure that something there isn't right. Reaper sends one gang member to the clubhouse to get some guns for them all. A safe distance away from the Warlock clubhouse, Nick and his gang are waiting for the blast. Harry's got his camera ready to take pictures. We see the guy that Reaper sent back for guns enter the building, just in time to get blowed up real good.
Hearing the explosion, the Warlocks jump into action as Harry snaps pictures nearby.
They run back to see the burning wreckage of their clubhouse. Reaper's trying to get in, but the flames are too high and it's not really feasible.
Later, Harry is meeting with Desi. He says he needs cigarettes, only these ones are special. Steel butts, and they need 15 of them.
When Desi asks how much money Harry has to confess that he only has $250. That's not really a lot.
Starting a gang war? Asks Desi. He mentions how he would like someone to take care of the Warlocks. Harry pulls out the Polaroids he snapped. "Take a look at this. We blew up their clubhouse." Desi flips through the pictures. "You guys did this?" "Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear about your car," says Harry. "Yeah," says Desi. "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a dozen 38s and a 9mm automatic." It's a gift from Desi. Desi says he likes Harry's style and says maybe Harry can work for him one day. But Harry will have to think about that. So the Warlocks are prowling the streets, looking to exact their revenge, when they come upon Gearbox. He tries to run, but they catch him and beat him, and then they impale his hands into the wall.
Yeah, it's almost biblical.
A crowd quickly gathers. Harry is there and he tells everyone to stand back. He whips off his jacket and places over Gearbox so he doesn't go into shock. Then Nick and some of the other Nightcrawlers run up, and Nick's mom shows up too, as do the police with their sirens blaring.
Now it's dark and Nick and his mother are strolling through the park, the one where Nick's mother used to take him when he was a child. She wants to know what happened to make Nick how he is today. It's almost as if she blames him for what happened to Gearbox. And she's crying, but Nick reassures her that it was a rival gang's doing, not his own. And one day he's going to get her out of this neighborhood, and she won't have to worry about that anymore.
Now we're in the hospital room where Gearbox is recuperating, and all the Nightcrawlers have come in to visit him. Harry tells one of them to watch the door, then he passes out the guns that he's acquired amongst the gang members. In an adjoining room, we can see a Warlock is eavesdropping on their conversation.
How? We'd never find out. Nick arrives and pays his respect to Gearbox, but that medication has kicked in and he's out. And we see that the Warlock is still listening intently to what the gang is talking about. Nick is the one who gets to keep the 9mm gun and announces that in 2 days, they'll get Reaper and his boys. Alvin and Harry are checking every move they make. And then the Warlock goes out the fire escape to tattle to his boss.
Then Nick goes to spend some time with Donna. She's angry with him, but his defense is that he's here with her right now and not them. But she feels he's not talking to her anymore. She starts to cry. She's just afraid, she says. "There's nothing to be scared of," says Nick. Then he suggests they go for a ride. So they hail a cab and take it out to the Staten Island ferry.
They take the ferry at night, and it seems like now all is well for the two of them. Nick tells Donna about his gambler father who was killed 7 years ago doing something stupid. Looking at the skyline, Nick says he likes Manhattan, and once again promises to move out of his neighborhood soon. Nick says that this is their night, the last being implied, and he wants it to be like it always was with them.
It's now morning, and Alvin and Harry are on a reconnaissance mission, staking out Reaper and the Warlocks and getting a feel for their daily routine.
And now we're with Denny and Anne walking down the street. Denny tells Anne that he got the new job, but he fears that he can't hack it. Anne thinks that he can hack it because he thought the same thing about their first night together, and that turned out okay. Anne tells Denny her dreams. She wants to be a psychologist when she grows up. She loves the idea of getting into people's heads. So they're in love, and they're checking out a potential apartment where they can live together. With their families, I assume. They talk to the landlord, and she says that they need to give her an answer by tomorrow.
Harry and Alvin are still on that stakeout duty. At the end of the day, they decide that picking off the Warlocks will be simple.
They go off to report to Nick what they found. On the way, Alvin hears trouble. It's a warlock, and Alvin goes to karate chop the interloper. And then they proceed on their way to Nick.
The next morning, Nick is waiting for Donna outside. She arrives and opens with she thinks she's pregnant. Nick asks her what if he doesn't want to see her again. Then he tackles her and tells her he has a date that night. She tells him she's not really pregnant.
They playfully banter and say a long last goodbye full of plans for a future that, spoiler, they'll never have.
Nick tells her that he wants to take her away and she can have a baby, and he wants her to look just like her, and she hopes he looks just like him. They say goodbye, and Nick heads off to meet the Nightcrawlers.
And then we're in Nightcrawler headquarters where guns are cocked and plans are finalized.
Denny is riding in a cab with his mother. She can't believe that Denny's getting his own apartment. The cab passes the Warlocks going down the street, and Denny ducks in his seat. He has the cab change directions so he can get out and warn Nick. The Nightcrawlers continue to head to the meeting where the Warlocks are waiting fully armed.
Yep, they intend to take out Nick. Denny is almost caught up to where Nick and his gang are walking and shouts out to warn him of the setup ahead. Nick tells him to go back. But no sooner does he do that than the shooting starts, and soon everyone is getting hit left, right, and center.
Nick is shot in the leg, but he's still standing. He shoots Ice and Reaper. Someone from a stairwell shoots Nick in the chest as Denny runs up to Nick as he falls into a pile of trash. Nick tells his brother he loves him.
The music comes up as credits roll over the scene of dead people lying on garbage bags. And that's the end.
This is the American International Podcast, and we're discussing Sunnyside from 1979.
An October 11th, 1978 article in Variety reported that principal photography was scheduled to begin October 30th on Sunnyside. Filming locations included Queens, New York, as well as Los Angeles, Pasadena, and Torrance, California.
According to production notes, filming took place entirely on location in New York City and Los Angeles. To capture the authenticity of the story, the filmmakers often shot in crime-ridden New York neighborhoods, where they employed extra security and developed a rapport with local youth in order to safeguard the set. Specific sites in the Los Angeles area included the West Los Angeles Veterans Hospital, a bakery in Pasadena, California, and a steel factory in Torrance, California.
In a November 1st Variety article, producer Robert L. Schaffel said that filming was scheduled for 7 weeks with a $2 million budget, which was financed through private backers and tax shelter funds.
Sunnyside was Joey Travolta's film debut. After the casting was announced early in October 1978, Travolta got a lot of press for joining his little brother John in the acting biz. Liz Smith, in her column, said Joey Travolta will star in one of those so-called street movies for American International, another in the rash of young gang flicks. It's called Sunnyside.
Scott Kane's November 1978 column wrote that John Travolta's older brother Joey starts work this week on Sunnyside, a modern-day drama. Since John's first movies have done substantially more than $200 million at the box office, a producer must have deduced that he can't go far wrong with Joey.
In Elaine Marcuzza's column, published in November 1978, Joey, quote, bristled when he read Time magazine's report that John had greased Joey's initiation to Tinseltown by dishing out $5,000 and the promise of a screen test. Travolta said that was total bullshit. I wouldn't want that support right now. I've never taken anything that way. I wouldn't. When I get something, I work hard for it. Unquote.
Vernon Scott wrote in his May 16, 1979 column that, quote, Joey doesn't believe he is capitalizing on his brother's fame. The same may not be said for the producers of Sunnyside, who gave the relatively unknown Joey top billing over John Lansing and Stacey Pickren.
In the same column, Joey Travolta said that his 66-year-old father Sam was making his film debut in Sunnyside too. And though he had no lines in that movie, Travolta promised in my next picture he will.
In a syndicated column by Dorothy Trelaw, published in November 1978, Travolta said he turned down a television role to appear in Sunnyside. The series, Travolta said, was more his brother John's style and said, quote, I'm not going to be a ripoff for anybody.
Travolta told columnist Douglas Thompson that he had a deal for a movie based on his own story called Steal Away, based on his dual career as a singer/teacher. Before he got into acting, Travolta taught special ed students in Rockland County for 3 years. About Sunnyside, he said, I can identify with much of it. I taught kids and people who were involved in gangs. I grew up in that kind of situation, so I feel comfortable in the role.
Travolta also said he was in talks with Warner Brothers to produce a second script called The Friend You Leave Behind, but neither that nor Steal Away was ever produced.
Marilyn Beck's Hollywood column, published in January of 1979, said Joey Travolta reported to her that a truck bearing the film and other essential equipment broke down 300 miles south of San Francisco, and producer Robert Schaffel had to have the vehicle towed all the way to San Francisco, where some filming took place, for a whopping fee.
When I was looking it up, this was in a contemporary news article, even though other contemporary news articles did not mention San Francisco as a shooting site. So that discrepancy is there, and I can't resolve it. Harry Hahn, writing for Liz Smith's column, reported in January of 1979 that Joan Darling, known as the director for the television show Mary Hartman, quote, just finished playing Joey Travolta's mother in his first film, Sunnyside, and she's telling most of L.A. that he'll be a bigger star than Brother John.
Sunnyside was released on June 1st, 1979. It screened at the Embassy 2 Theater in New York City on opening day.
Joey Travolta was sent on a 75-city tour to promote the film. While in Atlanta, he told Scott Kane at the Atlanta Journal that he met with a famous fan in Los Angeles while filming Sunnyside. It was Lillian Carter, mother of then-President Jimmy Carter. Mrs. Carter was on the Merv Griffin show and was asked by Merv which celebrity she'd most like to have dinner with. She had just seen Joey on television and decided that he was her favorite, so Merv set up a dinner date for the two of them at Ma Maison in Los Angeles. And apparently it was a big success.
Taglines for Sunnyside include, New York City, 1979, every jungle needs a king.
Joey Travolta is tough, is tender, is terrific in Sunnyside.
Sunnyside was released during a year in which the trend of gang-related films made headlines, following violent incidents at theaters showing The Warriors and Boulevard Nights. In comparison, the innocently titled Sunnyside received hardly any press for being a full-blown gang picture, as described by the June 6, 1979 Variety Review.
The New York Daily News published a story on the film's opening day, reporting on how members of the Sunnyside Neighborhoods Community Planning Board 2 planned to picket that day at 2 movie houses in Queens and at some others elsewhere. The group planned to urge moviegoers to boycott the film as a, quote, slander against the people of Sunnyside, and contacted movie reviewers urging them to tour the real Sunnyside neighborhood before writing about the film.
According to the article, the film depicts mean streets of low-income tenements, gangs, and helpless kids, according to the producers. And that, according to Karen Berger Morello, chairman of the Sunnyside Community Board, is beyond belief. Sunnyside is a decent middle-class community with lots of trees, she declared angrily. We hope the movie just goes away. The article said the producers chose the name of their community to juxtapose the upbeat name with the urban despair depicted in the movie.
It's kind of funny that her name is Karen. Walter McCaffrey, vice chairman of the community board, said that the board was looking to take legal action somehow. They quoted him saying, "This is not an individual being maligned, it's a neighborhood, and it is difficult to find a legal hook to hang on," he said. "But I'll tell you, I am not going to plunk down $4 to see it."
In Janet Maslin's New York Times review, she wrote that at yesterday's first show at the Embassy 2 Theater, the house had been taken over by a gang of kids who consumed a fifth of something or other, slammed seats around, made a wide range of grunting noises, and screamed catcalls at the movie. Sex scenes made them particularly noisy. Scenes in which gangs drew up war plans, on the other hand, held their rapt attention. The theater's management made only half-hearted efforts to keep the movie audible and the situation under control.
About the film itself, Maslin wrote, Joey Travolta has the family smile, the family walk, the family haircut, and the family derriere. He may also have some portion of the family acting talent, but a movie like Sunnyside, designed almost entirely to capitalize on Mr. Travolta's resemblance to his brother, makes it hard to hazard a guess. He's a lot more appealing than his surroundings, but these are so dismal that almost anything would look bright by comparison.
A brief review in the Cleveland Plain Dealer said, Joey Travolta's screen debut is a triumph for the unintelligible mumble, but in all else, the story of gang rivalry in New York is a disaster. Rated R for bad language, the only words really understandable.
Joel Baltaki, writing for the Philadelphia Daily News, called Sunnyside an unassuming, unpretentious, laid-back little melodrama about gang life and family life. Nothing special, but the performances are especially affecting and naturalistic. Travolta in particular turns in an appealing, assured, nice guy performance.
Bill Wine in the Camden, New Jersey Courier-Post called Sunnyside a pleasant surprise. Rarely have the warning signs for exploitation been more prominently displayed in advance than were those of Sunnyside. Here was a movie for the youth market, sort of a cross between Saturday Night Fever and The Warriors, starring John Travolta's look-alike brother. It was a sure signal to lower one's expectations, to expect a cynical project, one packaged to exploit an undiscriminating audience enamored of anything or anyone who could capture visions of teen idol John Travolta. From such lowered expectations, because of them perhaps, do pleasant surprises bring forth. Wine said while Sunnyside was no work of art, it was respectable, serious-minded, and moderately entertaining, and said Travolta had charm, talent, and a winning presence. So Cheryl, I know Sunnyside came out in 1979, and I'm not sure of the exact timeline, but this would be around the time when Filmways was taking over. I don't think that was complete yet. I think this is full-on American International Pictures still at this point.
No, so we can't blame this on anyone else. I think that's what you're getting at, right? I think this is the first time we've seen Samuel Arkoff's son's name come up in a contemporary American International Pictures movie. He did work on some of their later projects after Filmways had already taken over.
Yeah, you're right. I do believe this is the first one. We would see his name later when we go into the Rebel Highway series.
In terms of what we've seen for the podcast, it's the first time his name's come up for us.
Well, not exactly, because he did appear as a dancer in Shake, Rattle, and Rock.
Well, I was thinking more of his role as a producer, not an extra. I thought you were going to ask me how I felt about this movie. I was all set to render a judgment already. I don't have a whole lot to say about this movie, honestly.
I don't have a lot to say either. I had absolutely no notes.
I have concepts of notes.
Well, let's hear them.
This movie feels really long. The violence is brutish. The drama is mawkish. It's got nothing I want in a movie. The sex scenes, the sex scene, I guess there's just really one of them, was gross. The characters are unlikable, or you don't know them well enough to like them. Honestly, I feel like I liked Reaper better than anybody else in this movie, and he was a terrible character.
I agree. I think Reaper is the most fun to watch of anybody in this film. He's got a unique look. He carries a cane around with him. He doesn't use it. He just likes to hold it.
He's got a portrait of himself holding his cane in his bedroom where he has sex while his dad's having Bible study outside. Honestly, if this movie had been about him, I think it might have been a better project.
This movie almost had me at the beginning when it seemed like it was going to be this gang taking out the carnival. I thought, okay, this is something I can get behind.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't been ripped off by a carny? Although I thought that was hilarious that this is not something that you're supposed to engage in violence over. That's just what happens when you go there. Everybody knows that, except Joey Travolta's character, who apparently is not that bright. I don't get the impression that anybody's too clever in this movie. Maybe Denny's got something on the ball. His graffiti got him a job at an ad agency, after all.
I think that was a fluke because Denny doesn't seem that bright either.
No, he doesn't. Everyone's kind of an idiot in this movie, and it's just hard to like anyone. I kind of liked Anne and Denny together. It came out of nowhere, the two of them hooking up like that and then becoming a couple right away. Who cares? I don't care.
No, it was really hard to care about much of anything in this film.
No. And as you proceed toward the ending, and you know what's going to happen to Nick at the end, I was impatient for it to actually happen when we were watching it. We don't give you an idea how long the final scene between Donna and Nick actually is. They roll around in the grass. They plan for their future, which you know is not going to happen. We know it's not going to happen. They apparently believe it will because they're not that bright, but we know what's going to happen in the next scene. Everyone's going to get massacred. They make their sappy plans for the future. He goes to leave and she makes him stop like 3 times. Hey, Nikki. Hey, Nikki. Hey, Nikki. What? And she has to give him one more message. Just hammer home the fact that they're never going to see each other alive again. And I was just shouting at the screen for him to just go already. It's irritating. Their love is irritating.
It might have been a blessing, but it seemed a strange choice anyway to have that final massacre go as quickly as it did.
Oh, yeah. Bam, bam, bam. It was done.
It was probably very realistic in that regard.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Well, I don't know.
It wasn't very filmic.
It was, like I said, brutish violence. It happens quickly. People die. It's ugly. They're lying on trash bags in an alley. This movie is so ugly. Apparently the real Sunnyside neighborhood in Queens is much nicer, but they couldn't show that. They had to have the ghetto look.
They have trees, I hear.
Yeah, there weren't any trees in this movie. Well, maybe in that park scene there were some trees. But yeah, this movie just doesn't offer anything for a viewer to enjoy, unless you just want to see what's the deal with this Joey Travolta guy anyway. You've seen Gries, you've seen Urban Cowboy, you've seen Saturday Night Fever. What's his brother like? Well, this is what he's like, and frankly, it's not that impressive. No offense, Joey, if you're listening, but this wasn't the movie for you.
He seemed kind of old to be doing this part.
Yeah. Joey Travolta was 27 at the time he was making this movie, so you think he'd kind of have his shit together by now. But no, he's just gangbanging. Nick is a pig-headed idiot, too.
There wasn't really a lot of familiar faces here. We had almost John Travolta's face.
Yeah, sometimes it looked like him, and sometimes it didn't look anything like him.
Usually it sounded like him.
Yeah, it does sound like him.
It'd be mentioned that Jonathan Gries appeared as Wild Child.
Yeah, but I would never have pegged him as Uncle Rico.
He looks the same, except he didn't have that mustache. Oh, he's younger.
Well, he's a lot younger. I recognize Eric Laneuville. I think that's how you say it. He was in Saint Elsewhere, and I watched that series when it was on. And he's the guy with the stammer. He plays Gearbox here.
And Billy Jacoby, who plays the kid Billy, was a child actor in a lot of things. He was Parker Lewis's friend in Parker Lewis Can't Lose. He goes by the name Billy Jayne now, apparently. Jayne. But he went by Jacoby for a very long time.
Michael T. Williams is in this, although I can't remember who he played. Not one of the guys that has any lines. Basically, he's just a gang member. But he would go on to be in a lot better productions than this. I think I know who he was in the movie. He was a Nightcrawler. This movie reminds me of a much better movie that came out around the same time. We mentioned it earlier. It's called The Warriors. And that's a really good movie. That movie is very compelling. The characters are people that you care about. It's about a bunch of rival gangs, and one of them gets unfairly pegged for a murder, and they have to make their way back to their own borough alive. And I watched that recently. That movie's a lot of fun. I also watched it back around the time when it came out, maybe later.
But you missed this one, huh?
Yeah, I missed this one. But yeah, The Warriors is really good, and this one isn't. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of this movie really was. I mean, other than a vehicle for Joey Travolta.
Yeah, if it has a moral, it's don't be in a gang, idiot. That's the only thing that you can really take away from it.
I'm just trying to figure out what was the motivation for AIP to even make this film. Was it just because we have a chance to put Joey Travolta, John Travolta's brother, in a movie? So let's just do this and throw it out there, because they didn't really care what they threw out as long as it was going to bring in the money.
Yeah, and I couldn't find out if this actually made any money, but honestly, what other motivation could they possibly have had? This movie has nothing going for it.
It didn't seem like it had a $2 million investment, except it has a really large cast and those people had to be paid.
True. And they did get that equipment stuck and they had to pay to have that towed somewhere. Sure, that was pricey. I don't even know what to say. I would never make this movie.
I would have been okay if AIP had never released this movie and I never had to watch it.
Yeah, we've been dreading this one for a while. We have our movies picked out through the end of the year right now. And we knew this was coming and we made our way through it. We're almost done with it now. And that's the best I can say about it. We almost don't have to ever talk about it again.
If it was only a gang versus the carnival, it would be something worth watching.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. There may be a germ of a good story here, but I can't identify it.
You need to be invested in at least one of the characters. And the villain of the story, Eddie Reaper, is the most interesting one, which isn't unusual. The villains usually are.
Right.
I would say that second might be Reggie, just because he kind of stands out because he's so dumb. He feels like the gang's mascot more than a member.
Right. But they did give him a gun. So I don't know. They don't treat him any differently than they treat everybody else. He has important jobs that he has to carry out. He's counting cigarettes, taking deliveries from gangsters. He's the only one in the clubhouse when they know that trouble is all around. They didn't do a very good job of taking care of him. As many people are in that gang, they could have doubled up that night or tripled up. He didn't have to be there all by himself. I guess celebrating Nick's mom's birthday was more important than keeping Reggie alive.
So I don't think it's going to be a big surprise, but why don't you give a rating to Sunnyside using our AIP scale where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic?
P. There's not a lot to say. I can't think of one good thing about this movie. Usually I can find something about it. The music was terrible. It was grimy and dreary looking. The acting is not great. The characters don't care. Couldn't wait for them to die. And my only pleasure was in seeing the end credits roll so that we could be done with it. P, pathetic. What do you think?
I'm going to give it a P for painful. This is not a fun movie at all. I did not enjoy it. I was optimistic that there might be something in here worth watching. And if that carnival thing had happened, I was, okay, I can get behind this. This might be good. But that was just something to move the plot forward a little bit. And it didn't even matter at the end. And that was the most interesting part, was when Nick is got the map on the floor and putting everything out and said, okay, this is how we're going to take out the carnival. But then they just took out the carnival and never went back there.
Well, I think the carnival learned its lesson.
So they lost me after that. So yeah, this movie is a P.
And that's too bad because we wasted a lot of precious time on this. They wasted a lot of money on this. I don't think this movie did that great at the box office. Joey Travolta's career didn't take off like John Travolta's did. You know, John Travolta is still out there making movies. Not all good, but he's still working. And Joey Travolta is still working, but he's not doing blockbusters. So
Yeah, so unless you have a need to see Joey Travolta in his prime, I really can't recommend this film.
He doesn't even sing. He was only a singer before he got this job, and now he's an actor-singer. But yeah, don't bother. What you can bother with, though, is checking out our website, AIPpod.com. We have information on all the movies we've ever covered, links to the episodes, trailers, lobby cards, posters, interesting facts, how you can see these movies yourself if you want to. I don't recommend you find Sunnyside, but there might be other movies you want to check out, and we give you a clue on how to find them, if they're findable. That's AIPpod.com.
I think that's enough of trying to make light of Sunnyside. For the American International Podcast, I'm Jeff Markin.
And I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.